Hello and welcome to the Linker Network. If you are watching this, or rather listening to it, it is likely that you are a new employee in a Linker Network member organisation, or that your organisation has recently joined and everyone on your team or in the organisation are starting to familiarise themselves with the Linker Network and what it means to be a member. So, over the course of less than 1 hour, we are going to endeavour to give you some of the initial orientation or induction information that you need to have some understanding of what the Linker Network is, and importantly what it means in terms of how we want to start changing the way that we interact and support people, families and the communities that we support. So we've broken the induction training into 4 parts. This first part we're going to look at what is the Linker Network and why are we doing it. The second part we'll look at what are some of the direct client interactions that we want to have some impact on or change. The third section will look at what organisations will be doing to develop a greater sense of collaboration and collaboration for the purpose of greater impact for clients. And then lastly, we'll look at the other bits that don't fit neatly into the first 3 categories. So let's jump in and talk about why do we need a new approach? Where did the Linker Network come from? Why is this all happening? And I think a great place to start is by watching the video, which is located on the Linker Network webpage. So we'll jump across to that now and play the video.
My name is Nikki. I've got 3 kids. I've grown up in Mount Druitt all my life. My childhood was taken away from me, not knowing my parents. They were strangers to me. Going into foster care at the age of 14, got involved with a bit of drugs. So I was pretty all over the place.
When I was a teenager, my mum abandoned me, so I've just pretty much learnt to survive. And then I found out I was pregnant. I couldn't understand why my mum did what she did to me, because when I looked into my baby's eyes when they were born, I loved them.
I went through a lot of places looking for help. You got to sit on the phone for hours to get heard, and by then I was pretty short-tempered, so I would just lose it. And then next minute I know I'm in hospital. They're covering my hands with bandages or pumping my stomach with charcoal. My kids question me, "Mum, what happened?" And I tell them that I was climbing a fence and I slipped.
What amazes me about Nikki is that she doesn't give up. Her story probably isn't uncommon. Pretty much every family we come into contact with has had problems trying to find the right services in a way that's not stressful and frustrating for them.
We're just pieces of paper. That's how I feel.
What families tell us is that the system feels broken. So what we had to say was, let's try something different. We engaged a company called Second Road who undertake co-design. We got a lot of our non-government providers, we got all the human services agencies in Western Sydney. We spent days co-designing and gradually we came up through lots of research with this model that is the Linker Network.
I have to say I was probably a bit sceptical, but what I saw was a process that really genuinely brought together the voices of NGOs and government in a way that was empowering to both.
The Linker Network is trying to provide one door for the client to come into, to allow the client to be assessed and then referred to the appropriate service. All the way through, there is one person totally focused on the client, and that person will ensure that the client receives the right program at the right time.
My life was a big struggle until I met this program. That's when everything started changing for me. They don't pass you on to one to another, like you're sticking with one person. Segan's always been there by my side, guiding me through.
With Marnell it's different. There's no hoops, there's no this referral, that referral. It's just plain and simple.
There was always somebody Donna could ring, and if I couldn't help her, I would put that effort in to take Donna to another organisation.
So this project aims to shift my thinking process to say, I don't just have these tools at my disposal, I have these tools plus all of the other tools of all of the linked network of services.
If we do this right, we will have a system that I can walk into, and if it's a youth service or whatever service it is, I can still get help because they will kind of hold my hand and help me get to where I need to get.
It can help somebody like Nikki negotiate the pathways that she needs to negotiate to find the services that she needs to find.
If I had this service provided to me a long time ago, I would have actually become something and done something with it. My interest is football. My passion is to be a great mum to my kids.
What we want to do is to say relationships matter, and that's what the Lincoln Network is trying to achieve. It's trying to achieve a fundamental change of experience for our families, for vulnerable people.
I'm really excited about the Lincoln Network. Yeah, I think we need to do this for families. That's why we're all here.
So the Lincoln Network emerged as an idea in early 2016 under the guise of the Safe Home for Life reforms. A group of NGO and non-NGO thinkers came together and really was set up with the task of saying, how do we get better outcomes in the early intervention and prevention part of the service system? Which, of course, when we get that part right, we see a direct impact on the number of young people who are at risk of significant harm. And while part of that conversation needs to continue to be about resourcing and the appropriate levels of resourcing and the adequacy of the current available resources, we were in a room at a time when the answer to that was there are no new resources right now. So let's park that as an argument or as a part of the solution mix and look at the other elements of what we can do without new resources in order to drive better outcomes and have a greater impact for vulnerable people and families. There was a tremendous amount of work done over the space of around a year and a half, a number of workshops and some focused learning and thinking to try and really understand what are the factors that limit or hold back big outcomes in that early intervention and prevention space. And what we learned was that too many of our clients and too many of the people that we are seeking to support and have an intervention with don't know where to go for help, that the service system that we've built is disconnected, it's inconsistent, and it's confusing. And when people have an extended experience with the service system, the result is that they feel dehumanized by the experience. And we really wanted to turn that around. And if you're interested in doing some background reading on the process that got us to where the Lincoln Network is today, please visit the website and have a look at our story so far, where you'll find some good documentation that really captures the process of speaking with clients and speaking with service providers and researching and understanding what was happening, and then exploring how could we create or how could we bring about some changes that would have an impact on that. And of course, the result of when people can't find the right service at the right time, and when the experience of trying to interact with the service system is difficult and confusing because of the way the system has been artificially created, and of course when people don't feel like they're being supported in a natural and engaged and human kind of way, they fall through the cracks. And what we're seeing in what should be an early intervention system is that too often the interventions that we're having with clients are happening too late at the point of crisis, not at the early point where we have greater capacity to get a better outcome. And so the Lincoln Network was developed, and we're not going to go into, as I say, the long-term detail of how we got to where we are. But if we were to capture the Lincoln Network on one page, it would look something like this. And it starts with number 1 in that linking process. And we will unpack these in more detail as we go through this orientation session. But just quickly, the linking point is that first point of contact, whether it's the first time someone's interacted with the service system or whether it's the first time they've walked through your door today. And that is a critical moment in any interaction that we have with people and with families. And we need to focus our attention on those critical moments and make sure that we're getting them right. So we've done some work with that. That leads into number 2 is around always welcome and that customer service culture that we want to really embed in our work. We want to ensure that the experience that people are having when they access our services is consistently positive, and consistently positive in a way that means that when they go back to their homes and go back to their communities and other people are expressing a need for help, that people say, hey, I recommend you go to Family Support ABC or whatever it might be. I had a great experience there. And if we're not getting that bit right, we're missing a critical piece of the puzzle in terms of reaching people early and getting them to the right support at the right time. Number 3 is the client-centered plan. The client-centered plan is about giving some agency and some ownership back to our clients and to the families and the communities that we support, so that they have some greater level of understanding and control over what the options are available to them within the service system and their ability to choose and select those that are most meaningful for them. Number 4 is place-based integrated services. And this really speaks to what the Lincoln Network looks like as a whole. And it says that when we come together in a collaborative fashion and when our services start working in a joined up and integrated kind of way, there are direct flow-on benefits and greater impacts and greater outcomes for the clients, for the people and families and the communities that we serve. So the Lincoln Network certainly draws on and has learned a lot from place-based integrated services as a way of working. Number 5 is common non-stigmatizing branding. And this element really speaks to saying we need people to know where to go for help. And what we have is in effect, an outsourced service system. FACS and the government have outsourced early intervention to the not-for-profit sector. And there's some real benefits to that. We know that not-for-profits typically are more effective and efficient in the using money. Also know that not-for-profits generally have a much closer understanding and a greater connection relationship to the communities that they serve. They're more responsive and adaptive. But there are some downsides, and we need to protect against those downsides. One of those downsides is that NGOs all call themselves something different, and consequently, it's not always clear to members and people in the community of where to go for help. So by having some common branding, like a Heart Foundation tick of approval, where we all display a common kind of logo that people can associate with this sector, we increase people's understanding of where to go for help. And lastly, number 6 is collective practice, and that's about bringing organisations together and creating mechanisms that do more than just pay lip service to the idea of cooperation and collaboration. So it's worth just talking for a moment about what is it to be a member of the Lincoln Network. It is a commitment by an organisation, not an individual. And organisations that are a member of the Lincoln Network have been through a process, and it's stepped out in front of you here. It's at first they've been enticed, someone's invited them, or the department has given them some information and encouraged them to join. That organisation's then taken some time to learn more about what the Lincoln Network is. And then they'll have done a cost-benefit analysis. They've looked at the potential benefits of being a member versus the potential costs, because there are some costs. Being part of the Lincoln Network is about change and getting staff to work differently and attending certain meetings. And indeed, your time spent now participating in this new induction process is a cost to the organisation. But of course, there are benefits. And when an organisation weighs up those costs and benefits and make a decision, obviously if they've become a member, the decision they've made is that the costs do outweigh the benefits do outweigh the costs, and it's worth being a member organisation. They then go to the Lincoln Network website and sign up and become a member. They agree to some certain conditions as a member organisation. But once they've done that, then the Lincoln Network provides some support to them in how to implement the Lincoln Network. And of course, critically, the last one there is you don't just become a member and then sit back within your own organisation and do the parts of the Lincoln Network that relate to you. Critical is that collaboration, and all member organisations participate in what's called collaborative practice meetings to continually keep realigning our practice so it is happening as a linked up and consistent approach with other members in the linker network. The actual how to do that stuff is all embedded in what we call a playbook. And we'll jump across to this link now and have a look at what that playbook looks like. It is accessible via the website, and when a organization becomes a member, they receive a copy of the Linker Network playbook either as a physical copy or digital. You can think of it as, rather than using the word playbook, if it's easier to think of it as a how-to manual. And it is 95 pages long. It's not a small document. It begins with an introduction, and I'm just going to scroll through quickly here. It covers off on some of the stuff we will talk about today, but it goes into the nitty-gritty of how to. And so for each element of the Linker Network, it talks about how to get started and what tools are required, and then it provides a range of helpful guidelines about how to do that and what to think about when trying to implement that into an organization. It is a big document, and it's certainly not intended that people read it cover for cover. There are sections that really relate to the organization at an organizational level, and there are other sections that pertain directly to frontline staff. And so, depending on what your role is in an organization, the Linker Network playbook or how-to manual, you may only be interested in certain sections and certain parts of it. But it is, of course, critical to know that it exists and where to access it. Each part of the Linker Network playbook is then broken down on the website. And if we jump back now to the website, we'll have a quick look at that, because it is an important reference tool as you continue to participate and implement the Linker Network in your organization. And as an employee, you might want to consistently refer back here in order to print new resources and things like that. So at the bottom of the website is a link here to the Toolbox. And here you can see there's a whole range of different tools, and this will grow and change and evolve as the Linker Network learns from by doing, and through a process of continuous improvement will continue to update and evolve its tools. You can search for the different tools as a manager if that's your role and you're looking for things relating to organizational collaboration, or tools for staff relate to things, as I say, specific to frontline staff who are interacting with clients. You can see there's copies of the playbook, and we'll just select one here at random. We'll have a look at collective brokerage. So if I click on that, each section is the same. It talks about why is it important, what is it, and what is it not. And then over here we've got how to get started and the steps that you can take to participate. We have a toolbox, and for the various elements of the Linker Network that have some associated tools, you can access those tools there by downloading them and printing them. And indeed, if you want to get a refresher on a specific part of the playbook, you can watch a short video that really recaps the individual element that you're looking at. Last thing to point out, or rather two last things down here, is the printables. If you go to the printables, rather than having to look for an individual thing, you can jump in here and quickly get access to all of the printable resources that have been developed by the Linker Network. So that's a great, quick and easy way to find something that you want to print out in a hurry. And the other thing I wanted to highlight here was the Help tab. So we know that organizations and that staff who realize the benefits of the Linker Network early for their clients are those that are able to problem solve and overcome some of the challenges of implementation quickly and effectively. And of course, one of the best ways to do that is just to ask for help. You're not alone in trying to understand how to make the Linker Network fit within your organization and the way that you work with clients. And chances are the problems that you might be encountering or the questions that you might have are problems and questions that others have already encountered and are likely to have already overcome. So please don't hesitate to send us an email and reach out and ask us for help, because the sooner we can help you overcome those challenges, the sooner your clients will start realizing the benefits of the Linker Network. So how are we going to make things easier? In the playbook, and you won't be able to read this, but you can see the playbook is broken up into sections, and as I said, each section goes into specific details of how to do things. Section 1 talks about what each organization can do. Section 2. Section 3 talks about what organizations can do together. Section 4 is about what frontline staff can do, and then Section 5 looks at some case studies and some tools. So again, I'm not going to go into that in specific detail, but you can jump on the website, go to the Toolbox, and start having a play around and having a look at those individual sections. We will have a look at some of those pieces in isolation as we work through this brief orientation. One of the last things I want to say in this initial introduction part to the orientation is to say that the Lincoln Network is not just a new set of tools. The tools are there to help you and your organization create a new experience for clients, or to problem solve some of those things around making sure that people know where to go for help, making sure that they are able to get to the right service quickly and easily, and that the experience that they have when they're accessing the service system is one that is engaging and is positive and fulfilling and makes them want to return and refer us to others. And what we've tried to do is build a little toolbox to help make that happen. But there's an important message here, which is to say, we don't want you to take the view that those tools are fixed and that you have to use them in that specific way. So we've got a picture of a plumber on the screen here, and her name is Sam, and we ask a probing question about why does Sam choose to become a plumber? And some of the answers you might give are for the money. There's good money to be made in blue collar work. It might be a family business that she's inherited. She's taking after, a parent who's also a plumber. She might because she likes working with her hands. She doesn't want to be stuck indoors. Might want to be her own boss. There's a whole bunch of reasons that we can think of as to why someone would choose to become a plumber. But what we don't hear and what people don't say is that Sam became a plumber because all she wants to do in life is use a plunger, a specific tool. I don't think there's any plumber out there who is a plumber because they just want to use those tools. They're a plumber because they want to fix plumbing problems. And when they go out to a plumbing job, they take a bunch of tools that they know typically are what they need for most jobs. And when they get there, they have a look, they use their wisdom and experience to decide which tool they're likely to need to change this leaky toilet. It might be a shifter and a plunger or something. But when they encounter a toilet with a leak that they've never seen before, it might be, if you're familiar, in Japan, they have these, amazing electronic toilets that play music and lights and wash your bottom and all that kind of stuff. What the plumber doesn't do is just start whacking away at it with a tool that's not suitable for the job, simply because that's the tool they happen to bring, or that was the tool that they were taught at TAFE was probably the right tool to use for a leaky toilet. Indeed, they look at it and they think, gee, I've never seen that before, or the tools that I've brought don't seem to quite fit this type of toilet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my van and I'm going to look for a different tool, or I might call the plumber collective and ask, hey guys, has anyone ever seen this kind of toilet and what sort of tool do I need? As you think about the Lincoln Network and as you work to implement the various elements of the Lincoln Network within your organization, it's important to keep that in mind, that what we've done with the playbook and the website is given you some possible tools that we think will help you in bringing about this changed experience for people and for families and for the community. But don't get caught up in thinking, I have to use these specific tools or these specific words. Part of your role in the organization will be adapting the tools that have been created within the Lincoln Network to best suit the individualized needs of your organization and your clients. The last thing to say is that the Lincoln Network has been designed to speak to or to accommodate all the work that happens in the early intervention and prevention space. And we can roughly sort of break that into the engagement kind of work that we would typically associate with community builder organizations such as neighborhood centers. We then look at how that engagement work then results in referral, and that referral then pushes people towards plans or sort of intake type work, and then the direct kind of targeted care and support programs. Thinking again about our toolbox, we've created tools that are useful for all organisations across these different parts of the early intervention and prevention space. It's not intended to imply that every organisation must start now doing everything. Have a look at the playbook, have a look at the Linker Network, and pull out the pieces that relate to your organisation and apply them accordingly. Don't take the view that you have to apply every single part of the Linker Network to your organisation. So have a think about where your organisation fits. Understand that we're not asking everyone to become universal service providers that do everything. For example, we're not asking neighbourhood centres to suddenly start becoming case managers and case workers. Equally so, we're not asking case services or counsellors to become universal service providers or to start doing community development work. And then if we bring that down, of course, we recognise that within an organisation, different people do different roles. And once again, if you're a counsellor in an organisation that includes care and support, the Linker Network is not asking you to then suddenly jump outside of your role and be a jack of all trades and continue doing counselling, but also do supported referrals and also do case management, etc. But we do want to think about how we can do that in a linked up way in collaboration with the other staff in our organisation and of course the other organisations in the Linker Network. So that is the end of part 1, and we will finish there and start looking in part 2 at the elements of the Linker Network that speak to the direct interactions that we have with clients.